The Americans are very well known for their most produced tank, the M4 Sherman medium tank, which served mainly in World War II, and of course the Patton series, and who can forget about the Abrams tanks. But today we're going to talk about Americans' only super heavy tank ever to be produced. This is of course the T28, otherwise known as the 105mm gun motor carriage T95. This tank was built in 1945 in order to help pierce the heavily defended positions, like for example the West Wall, also known as the Siegfried Line. I personally see this as the German Maginot Line. If you guys would be interested, I could make a video about the Siegfried Line on a later date, but this is also one of the reasons the 105mm was chosen for this vehicle. It is because it was thought to have a very good performance against both concrete and tanks. But first, welcome to another episode of A Failure or Wasted Potential. If we can achieve the 105 likes within 24 hours, I will upload a new video about the AMAC 13 within 2 days of the release of this video, so you know what to do. If you have a recommendation, leave them in the comments, and other than that, let's go. The T28 heavy tank, not to be confused with the Russian T28 medium tank, was the biggest tank the United States has ever produced, coming in at a whopping 11.1 meters long including the barrel, almost 4.4 meters wide and over 2.8 meters tall. This would be the longest and widest tank we've talked about thus far on this channel, but interestingly enough, unlike the British Tortoise, it didn't have a massive crew, because the crew only consisted of 4 members, and these were the commander, the loader, the gunner and 1 driver. Of course, when you're such a priority target on the battlefield, you need something to defend yourself against the smaller infantry units, and the commander had access to the machine gun. But one downside was that it would require him to stand in an exposed position to enemy fire, which is never really ideal. Especially when you consider the fact that you are already a priority target, so this would make you very reliant on the infantry, even more so than you are in a normal tank. The removal of the turret was purposely chosen, and this allowed the tank to have a lower profile. This was important for such tanks because the smaller you are, the less likely you are of being hit. However, the tank was still massive, so I doubt it would have mattered either way. The other reason for this is so they could put the 105mm all the way in the front. This allowed them to use casting and allowed them to use the armor more effectively on the front and the sides. But considering they already had a maximum armor of 105mm, it is unlikely that it would get penetrated frontally by anything Germany used, except for maybe the 128mm Pak 44 L55 of the Jagdtiger, but there were only 100 made of these, so the chance of running into them was slim to say the least. You would have a greater chance of running into the 88mm anti-tank gun, and at point blank range with the best anti-tank gun round available they would still come in short. Of course, to stop such a powerful anti-tank gun you need a lot of armor, and this definitely increases your weight quickly, and this is also a good chunk of the reason why the T28 is also one of the heaviest tanks, weighing in at about 86 tons. And due to this incredible weight, the T28 needed 4 individual tracks to spread the weight equally across the different soil. To put the weight into perspective, the 86 tons of the T28 is more than twice as heavy as the Churchill heavy tank. But this was nothing compared to the 188 tons of the Maus. To move this weight you need a good engine, and the T28 was equipped with the 4GAF V8 engine, and this produced up to 500 horsepower. 500 horsepower might seem like a lot, but this is definitely underpowered for a vehicle with such weight, and this shows in the top speed, considering it was only able to get a top speed of 13 km an hour. To explain how bad this actually is, the Maus was 100 tons heavier and had a top speed which was 7 km an hour higher. And then you have the Tiger 1, which had a top speed which is 3 times higher than the T28's. And to make this even worse, this is when you're talking about top speed, this is when you give it her all, so the cruising speed would definitely be a lot lower. Like I've said before, the T28 was equipped with a 105mm, and this main armament was also used on the heavy tank, the T29, which coincidentally also never saw action. And according to the reports, it could fire between the 4 to 6 rounds a minute. When you don't have a turret, the movement of your main armament is very important. The main armament could go 11 degrees to the left and 10 degrees to the right. It also had an elevation of 19.5 and a depression of -5 degrees. Another thing that comes with lacking a turret is the discussion if it is a tank or an armored fighting vehicle. And before you come in my comments and tell me why it is not a tank, keep in mind that it just started out as the T28. In 1945 it was redesignated as the gun motor carriage T95, and then in 1946 it was again redesignated to the T28 super heavy tank. which puts it at the same category as the Talk-To, the Mouse, the Jagdtiger and others. Now we arrive at everyone's favorite part, my opinion, where I tell you guys my opinion, and this is just my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. If you disagree, leave a comment why you disagree, and if you agree, leave a comment why you agree. In my opinion, this tank was a failure, because it amounted to nothing at all, and even the versions created after the T28, which in my opinion were better designed and overall would be more useful, were never really used or mass produced for that matter. I understand the intentions the Americans had, especially because the Soviets tried it with the ISU series, the British had also their Tortoise and the Germans had the Jagdtiger, but it was not needed. The main armament was also used on other prototypes, so these prototypes also never really saw production. This tank was so underpowered to the point that you might as well just march your way there. The fact that the commander is exposed if he wants to use the machine gun also is a major downside. And another downside is that it's very easy to flank in close engagements. My conclusion is that I'm just happy that the Americans were smart enough to realize that this tank would be totally impractical to use. So, like I said, in my opinion this tank was a failure, but good lessons were to be learned from this experiment. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Between the Jagdtiger, the T28 and the Tortoise, which of these is your favorite? Let me know in the comments. And other than that, I got a playlist on the right, a video on the left, and have a very good day.